I think it's very well structured in the way that whatever concepts you learn theoretically, you have to go in that. So
Okay.
if you get an opportunity to be, to get taught from the people who actually wrote those books, you can imagine how incredible that experience would be.
If you want to pursue computer science degrees, the number one university in the world is Carnegie Mellon University. Right? It is ranked number one in terms of computer science, the research facilities, and the professors and all that. And in this episode of BITScast, I am proud to say that I have Pranav Saxena, who is a BITS alumni, and has also done his masters from Carnegie Mellon University itself in computer science. And in this video, he talks about how he got selected into the program of masters from Carnegie Mellon itself. What was his BITS experience like? And then he also talks about how you can get a chance to study at the number one university for computer science. Okay, I hope you will enjoy this episode and learn something from this. If you do, make sure that you subscribe to the channel, like this video, and now let's get into the podcast episode. Hey Pranav, thank you so much for joining me here for this podcast interview, and I'm really grateful that you said yes to come here. And so, yeah, how are you doing there?
I am doing great. Thanks for setting this up, and I'm really glad and also honored at the same time to be a part of this, initiative which you have taken. I think this is going to help a lot of people, and I, as a BITSian alumni, I'm happy to share information about my experience and my journey, and sort of try to inspire the youth and see if they can also grab some amazing opportunities in their lives and create an impact in this world. And yeah, I mean, I am a Pilani graduate, 2011 pass out from computer science
Yeah.
department, and my ID I still remember that, which is 2007 A7 PS103P. So and I think I had a blast in Pilani, and I don't think the platform which Pilani provided, any other college could have provided me that level of solid foundation.
Yeah.
Plus like the network of people I got to interact with, and I think most and a major part of those sort of like the networking events which used to happen at BITS Pilani. I think that was an amazing sort of platform. And then a lot of my friends happened to come to the US together and when I came, and then we are still very close to each other nowadays too. So I think all of that journey over the last decade has been pretty, inspiring. But I would say like a lot of that credit goes to the people who have been a part of my life and helped me get where I wanted to.
Awesome. I
Yeah.
think this talk will help a lot of people decide upon their careers and just think about what path they want to take. And talking about opportunities, I think like even in BITS Goa right now, we had this crazy event. It's called BITS Goa BITS Global Meet, in which like all
Uh-huh.
the startup founders and people who graduated from like 1980s or 1990s, they came over and they just had an amazing time. And I got to talk to people like Swiggy co-founders and also like Big Baskets founders. So that was an amazing experience.
That's incredible. I wish I can get a chance to come back to any of those BITS campuses again. The last time I came to BITS Pilani was during my convocation back in 2012.
Okay.
So it's been a while.
Yeah. Yeah, so I just want to know what was your experience like studying computer science at BITS Pilani in the that era, like 2007 2012. What was that
Yeah.
like?
Yeah. So let me first give a disclaimer that when I entered BITS Pilani, I had no background in computer science. I came from a physical education background as my fifth subject in my 12th standard, and having taken non-medical, and
Yeah.
the standard like physics, chemistry, and mathematics. But like I got a good score in BITSAT, and I decided, okay, let's just go ahead and take computer science, and we'll see whatever happens. Surprisingly, like some of my other batchmates who came from some school which had computer science as their 12th subject, so I think they found it pretty easy to sort of ramp up in the initial few years, like when we have those courses like CP1 and CP2 in the first year and the second year. So I was personally having a hard time to like converting the logic into like the code. I was really good in mathematics, but like I was having some sort of you can say like a learning curve to convert that into code really, really fast. But then, I was like, I didn't give up. I was like, okay, this is something I have to do. But eventually, with the right set of courses and practice, I think when the third year came, which has the structured compulsory disciplinary courses for CS, I think I was able to do pretty well in those courses. And I think the courses were very well structured. Especially like I do remember the data structures and algorithms course from Professor Subramaniam, Sundar Balasubramaniam, and I think from some of those courses by Professor Sudeep Mohan. I think those were really, really well structured. Operating systems, I remember, used to be one of my favorite courses. Though it was a bit on the theoretical side, but I still felt that it was a great course from a foundational perspective.
Yeah.
If we just talk about CS in general, I think the courses were very well structured, and they were, I think, inspired from the curriculum in MIT and some of the other popular universities in the US. Though having studied in the US, I see there is definitely a difference around the amount of practicality component which sort of exists between the curriculum in the universities in the US as against what we studied back then in 2007 to 2011.
Yeah.
But having said that, I still feel that the concepts were very well taught. The faculty is world class, and having gotten a chance to study with some of these esteemed professors like Sudeep Mohan and Ray-Ban, I remember we used to talk a lot during the component courses, which also used to be an amazing course back then. So I feel like overall, I think it was a really great experience, but just that I felt that having studied here in the US, there was some improvement which could have been done in terms of making the students do more practical assignments, like implementing a lot more theoretical concepts rather than just like putting all the theoretical concepts into your mind and then just forgetting later, like what the hell that was about. So I think that was a big difference when I came to CMU. And I would love to talk about that as well when, probably a bit later. About
sure. Right. So like, I want to know, like, when you were graduating in 2011, what was going on in your brain? Like, what were you thinking for your own career? And what was that era like? Was computer science as hyped up as it is right now? Like, what was that time like?
Yeah, I guess like, so first of all, like, I think my batch was just full of a lot of very hardworking, studious people. So everyone was very goal-oriented and ambitious about what they want to do in their lives. Of course, you don't know at that point like what exactly you would end up doing, but people are just trying in different directions. Like some people want to like just go and crack CAT, for IIM. Some people are like, okay, we want to go abroad and give our GREs. And some people are like just passionate about the civil services and prepare for IAS and all that. So for me, I think I was pretty clear that way that I probably want to go abroad. So I did actually start preparing for my GRE right in my fourth year. And actually that was in the campus itself, which there was a course called Technical Report Writing and the faculty, which used to teach that. I think they also used to have GRE classes back then. Okay. And I just, out of curiosity, thought like, since we are within the campus, having this luxury of attending this course, so why not just utilize my time and try to just ramp up on my English vocabulary, which was like one of the premises for preparing for GRE.
Yeah.
And my plan was initially to probably just apply for my master's right after I graduate from BITS Pilani. But then I got a pretty good on-campus job with Citrix Systems in Bangalore. So I thought maybe and the work which I was supposed to be doing was very directly related to cloud computing. And I thought that was something which was gaining a lot of traction back in 2011. So I thought maybe I should work for 1 or 2 years, see how that turns out to be. And since GRE scores are valid for, I think, 5 years or something, then I'll probably apply a bit later. So I deferred applying to universities for a year or so. And then I moved to just start off my job. And I think that was a great experience, and I can elaborate on that too. But basically, when I was at BITS, my idea was to basically apply for my master's and see how I can kind of pursue or further my studies in the field of computer science by pursuing a master's degree.
Okay. And what was your application process like for applying for foreign universities? Did you have did you think about going for the Ivy universities, or what were you thinking for that?
Yeah. So I guess I think that's a great question. And I myself was a lot confused on which university should I shortlist.
Yeah.
So the one thing which I also realized at that point was that each university has a pretty decent amount of application fee. Like it costs like $100, $100 or something per application, which is not cheap. So I thought, okay, based on all those factors, I'll probably apply to 10 universities. And out of those 10, I'll keep 3 or 4 as the dream universities, 3 or 4 something which I would be happy to go into, and 3 or 4 as sort of a backup in case nothing happens. So I took the risk of applying to some of the top schools Stanford and Georgia, CMU, and and then there were other universities like University of California, San Diego, University of California, Irvine, and Stony Brook. So, but then, I think that was sort of the thought process around, okay, let's shortlist 8 to 10 universities and see where you can possibly get an admission in the areas which you want to talk about, which you want to get in. And some of those universities encourage that you try to reach out to the professors who are working in specific areas, especially if you're wanting to do a master's with thesis. So in that case, if let's say you are like having a interest in an area which overlaps with what the faculty is doing, it kind of, betters your chances of maybe getting into that master's program if you have interacted or exchanged a couple of emails with the professors in that specific university. So yeah, luckily, like I got a pretty good amount of admits from some of those top schools, and the reason I decided with Carnegie Mellon was duration, and I just thought like it's a great school in computer science, and even though I think it's one of the most expensive schools in the US as per like, the cost is concerned, but I just decided to take that risk to go ahead with CMU and see whatever happens. So that was definitely a risk in terms of like, the amount of money which I had to pay and thinking like, how would I pay back?
Yeah,
it's expensive here in the US.
Yeah, talking about money, did you get some sort of like reimbursement or like financial aid for your masters?
So yeah, that depends from university to university. So for example, I think Tech offers a pretty good tuition fee waiver, and a UIUC offers a pretty good tuition fee waiver if you are a master's student there. But unfortunately, with Carnegie Mellon, they do not offer tuition for a master's student. They have, opportunities like being graduate assistants or teaching assistants, and then earning on a per hourly basis, where you would make maybe $20 an hour or so. But yeah, they have waivers only for PhD students, and I didn't apply for a PhD program there. So unfortunately, no, there was not a single tuition waiver there. But when you are admitted in the university, you can look for opportunities to like maybe, find these TA-ships and RA-ships and see how you can possibly make some amount of money and pay for your tuition. Yeah, so I did like take a student loan back, thinking that I should be able to pay it back, assuming I get a good job after that.
Yeah. Indeed, you did.
Yeah.
Awesome. Right. So like my question is like, I recently saw a news saying that CMU is the #1 college in US for computer science. So I want to know like what makes CMU different from all the other colleges, and especially what is the difference between Indian universities and American universities that makes it so worthwhile to go out there and study over there.
I think it's hard for me to comment about the curriculum of the different other universities, because I have friends who studied there, but since I personally did not study there, it's hard for me to compare. But I can comment about CMU's curriculum, particularly for CS. I think it's very well structured in the way that whatever concepts you learn theoretically, you have to go in that. For example, I was talking about operating systems, having studied that in BITS Pilani, and also seeing how it is structured in CMU. So in the entire course in CMU for OS, how you are graded is that for that entire semester, you have to implement an operating system of your own. That's how you pass that's how you pass the course. If you implement an operating system which is working with all the concepts required, like multi-threading, scheduling, and prioritization of like different processes, and etc. So if that works really well, then you get an A grade in OS, and that's how you basically pass that course. Otherwise, it's like really hard for you to like just even be able to get a passing grade. But compared that to BITS Pilani, I wouldn't like say that the course was badly structured or anything. I think it was really good in BITS too, but it was very theoretical. Like you would end up doing a lot of like, hand solving problems rather than writing code. And I think that's where the difference comes in, because the more you implement at that age, when you're trying to learn how these things work, how the concepts are actually implemented, I think it takes you to all different level altogether. So I feel that was one of the big differences in the way education system, I think, works in India in general as compared to the one in US. And that's just one course. I felt many other courses which I did in CMU were very practical in terms of implementation of whatever concept it might be. Even the simplest of the concepts requires implementation for that. Yeah. So, but having said that, if you do your courses really well in BITS Pilani, like, understanding the concepts really well, I feel it will not be a hard transition for you to come in and understand and then implement it while you do your master's. So that was, I think, a big win for anyone who comes from a background like BITS Pilani, who can come in and it's like, pick up things really fast and implement it.
What were your favorite courses from CMU?
Definitely distributed systems. I think that was one course which I would changed my life and my perspective towards CS. And the reason I say that is, Yeah, the reason I say that is because some of these books which I used to read back in BITS Pilani, like those people who wrote those books, like those authors, they're actually professors in CMU. So
Okay.
if you get an opportunity to be, to get taught from the people who actually wrote those books, you can imagine how incredible that experience would be. So I still remember one of the amazing and very esteemed professors at Carnegie Mellon called Dave Anderson. So he used to teach distributed systems in this language called Go. And
Yeah,
I think
Golang.
yes,
Yeah, I
so
was
that's
recently learning that.
introduced by Google back in 2014 by this person called Brad Fitzpatrick, and an amazing language. Whoever wants to go into exploring concurrency and highly performant, scalable microservices architecture. So it's really amazing language for that. But anyhow, like coming back to the distributed systems course, I think it was just an amazing course in terms of understanding the concepts. And one of the projects which we had was to implement our own MapReduce framework inspired from the actual Apache Hadoop. So if you're given projects on scale where you're implementing a Hadoop-like distributed system, which is complex, and you have to understand the different concepts from an abstraction of a distributed file system to be able to serialize data and sending it over the network, and then understanding different compression algorithms and networking and storage, and this holistic system as one entity, I think you get a really, really great picture of how CS works in general, because ultimately distributed systems is connecting different machines and utilizing the power of different machines by sending the data across the network, and maybe some sort of a parallelization or you'd be able to utilize the cores on different machines and do some sort of a processing in that fashion. And you can see with with the advent of cloud computing with AWS and Google Cloud and all that, ultimately that's all a big distributed system as well. So if you understand the core basics, how all of that is implemented, I think you can go to any field for that matter and build an amazing infrastructure and scale it up. So I feel that is one course which I really admired because of the way it was taught.
Okay.
And there were other courses too, but I think this was my favorite. I mean, machine learning was taught really well back then. And there were also good courses on data structures and algorithms. There was one course on software architecture, which teaches you about how do you basically define quality attributes for a distributed system. Like, I think when you come in as a senior engineer in any of these companies like Google or Facebook, it's very important to understand why you are solving that problem and what kind of quality attributes matter for your system. By quality attributes, I mean something like, if you're, let's say, designing a web service, do you want to support billions of users? So scalability is a critical component to it. Availability is a critical component to it. Then maybe you want the data to be consistent too. So maybe you have to trade off consistency and maybe have some sort of an eventual consistent system, or depends on what the use case is. So I'm saying taking a step back and understanding what you're trying to do from these quality attributes is I think the foremost step before even you start writing code for anything. And that's one thing I think CMU taught in a really great detail.
Okay. And was there any research aspect to your MS in CMU?
Yes. So I think my research was focused towards some computer vision algorithms on object detection, coming up with an Android app which allows you to basically implement some of those CV algorithms and be able to detect objects in real time when you point camera to some objects which are available close by. So I think because I had a lot of background in pattern recognition and fuzzy logic and those kind of courses which I did at BITS Pilani, I think that credit goes to all of those courses that I decided to take up these courses here in CMU as well, and decided to pick up this project on object detection. So I think that turned out to be a really great experience and also allowed me to diversify my skill set. Like I spoke about, doing distributed systems. I did courses on machine learning, software architecture, and this, this master's project on object detection and coming up with an Android app. So I never wrote an app before this one. So that also helped me learn how to write an Android app from scratch and be able to publish it on Play Store. Yeah.
Okay. Now, one question that I see a lot of people asking, I gave a Google form for people to fill if they have any questions. And people ask this question, is MS and CS really worth it right now in 2020? Now that you have so many courses on Coursera and other places to just learn it. And what do you think about that?
Yeah, so I think the right question to ask there is that what is your eventual goal? Are you planning to like land a job in the US, or are you wanting to just like further your degree and education, or like, your in-depth understanding of CS, and then, not really care about a job? So I think you have to ask the right question before you sort of decide like if MS or not in 2020. So for me, like I really wanted to work in the US, and the reason also this thing also got a bit I would say strengthened because of my first job at Citrix, where I was working in Bangalore for like 1 year or so. But then after that, the company internally transferred me to their US headquarters for like, some time. And when I worked here with the people, because my work used to be directly with the US team, so I was contributing directly to the code base, which was maintained by some of the people in the US. So when I came here and I worked with them, I realized like this work culture is pretty amazing in what I was looking for. And that sort of like corroborated my thought process of just coming to the US. And then I went back to India and then quit the company and then came back to US again on a student visa. And that's when I joined CMU. So I think my goal was to like, come work here. And that's why I thought like masters is definitely one way to get there. Of course, there are companies like Facebook and Google who can offer you job offers directly for the US headquarters if you're even in India. But given that this is like a COVID situation and due to pandemic and also the visa restrictions which have come up lately, I think it's gotten all the more tougher for people to come directly to the US from outside, especially India. So I think like, masters helps, but then you have to ask what is that you're looking for, what's your goal?
Yeah. Okay, great. And talking about visas, like what visa do you have right now? Like, do you have H1B or do you have like OPT? What are you having right now?
Yeah. So I mean, when I graduated from CMU, which was back in 2014, that time I was an OPT. But when I joined Apple, which was in 2015 January, so I got my H1 in the very first attempt. And since then I have been on H1B. But then there's also this green card processing which these companies do for you. And although I mean I am an Indian citizen, so it takes like a lot of time to get a green card.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
For an EB2 category like candidate, I think it takes like maybe, I don't know, 10 years or more, even though theoretically people like have made claims that it might just take 150 years, which I mean, I don't know how that number.
Especially now that Trump is there.
Yeah, with the insane waiting times, it's. But yeah, I think with few of my friends who received their green cards under the EB2 category, it has taken like close to 9 to 10 years. So I guess like the visa situation, I was an H1B and Apple filed my green card too. So which allowed me to get into a stage which is called the I-140, which when you have that, it allows you to extend your H1B indefinitely. So which means you can work in the US as long as you want. So when I transitioned to Facebook, which was very recently, I mean, I'm still on H1 and my green card with the I-140 status continues to be valid.
Okay.
Yeah.
That should do it for this episode, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure that you come on Tuesday to watch the part 2 of this interview where I talk about his experience working for Apple and also Facebook. How did he get these opportunities and how you can also get these opportunities to work at some of the best tech companies out there. So make sure that you watch that as well. But that should do it for this episode. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section below, and you can also reach out to Pranav Saxena. I'll link up his social handles in the description as well, so go check it out. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Till then, bye bye.